So this book, I originally designed it as a favor. Now it's in 18 independent bookstores just like this one. And it completely changed how I would look at graphic design as a career. So let's go back a little bit. I'm going to share a little bit of the history on how this came to be. A couple years ago, my sister tells me that she is going to start her writing career, and she's had these two stories in mind that she's going to do. It basically involves twins. The first story she's going to be writing is about the female, and then the second story is going to be about the male character. So the twins are part of this triad family based in Los Angeles, and their older brother dies, and their stories basically talk about how they deal with the loss of their family member, and it also goes through their love stories as well during this family tragedy. So she needed a cover designer, and with my background as a graphic designer, she figured, why not ask me? So, and of course, I was gonna help her out. She's my younger sister. I wasn't gonna say no. Of course, I decided to design her covers, and when this process started, I knew from the very beginning that I was going to be designing two books. Even though they were going to be released a year apart, I already knew in the back of my mind that I had to make both books look like they were part of a series, and that when they were on a shelf that they belonged together. So in doing my sister's covers, I realized there's actually a market for people who need book covers. So I decided, why not, make it a business? So my sister mentioned at the time she commissioned me to do her art covers that she was gonna focus more on independent bookstores and Amazon Kindle. So I wasn't quite sure how that would look because, in an independent bookstore, they obviously carry various stock, a lot of traditional published authors and some local ones. So I wasn't quite sure how my work would look alongside other books in a bookstore. I mean, when I designed the series, she had mentioned she really liked the whole Anna Huang Twisted series look. So there was a lot of, there were specific colors and symbolism with objects. So that was the take I kind of got when it came to creating her series. But then I noticed that there was a lot of illustrations happening when it came to cover art within the last few years. So I wasn't quite sure how my work would look on the bookshelf, but the responses have been amazing. So to anyone who has gone to one of my sister's signings, thank you for your support, of course. I've heard a lot of compliments from the staff and from customers. They're always very complimentary when it comes to the cover design. So that makes me feel good, knowing that the designs have made an impact on people, that they stand out, and that and sometimes some of the designs, they just pull people in. Like I witnessed it firsthand, where someone will ask, why did you go with this design? And then she'll explain the symbolism behind why this particular object is on the cover. So I'm just very glad that I'm very glad the designs have received a lot of praise, and they're amazing stories too. If I'm being honest, her second book is actually one of my favorites. I happen to like the male character in there. He knows how to bake cookies. So any man who can bake cookies, definitely win in my book. So I'm gonna break down a couple of the design elements I used when it came to making her book cover. So because I was always constantly thinking this is a series, not just one book, when I designed her first book, I always had the second cover in mind, how I was going to make them look like they belong together. So the first element when it came to designing was the font choice. Title, I had used kind of a very cursive-y, handwritten font, and I chose a cursive type of font that I felt would work for both covers. Then because I chose a font for the title that was very handwritten, I ended up going with a sans serif font for her name, because it would have the most contrast as well. Having a very scripty type of handwritten font if her name was also scripty or even had serif, it may not look as good. Because actually in one of my initial designs, I had a serif font for her name, and I found it didn't quite look so cohesive with the title. In one of my early concepts, I had a sans serif font and a script font for the title, and then a serif font for her name. And that was a little too much going on. I found that when I just consolidated to having just the handwritten script font for the title and then a sans serif font for her name, just made it look better overall. So the second design element I chose, and again, this was a series, so I had to think about that. So when I read her first book, Not Without You, which is about the female main character, her brother, her twin brother, who is the main character of the second book, is featured prominently in the first book, and their personalities were very different, and I kind of wanted to convey that when it came to making the books. So when I designed the first book, which is about the female character, I kind of wanted to go with some cool tones, because she's kind of she's a bit of an ice princess, where he's a lot warmer, not to mention his name actually refers to the sun. So I wanted to go with a more warmer tone when it kind of came to designing his book. So I ended up going with a gradient tone of blue, cool colors of blue and purple for her book, and then I ended up going with warmer tones for his book. But when you see them together, they do look like they're a series, right? And even when you see them on the shelf like this as well. Isn't that crazy how one favor that I did for my sister has completely changed what I expected to do for my design career? I mean, I've been reading romance novels since I was in my teens. I mean, I'd like sneak into my mom's bedroom and find her romance novels, and eventually she just started storing them in my room as a teenager, because I guess it was taking up too much space in her room. So you never know what's going to happen when you do favors like these for people. So, well, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.